Should and can we abolish ICE? This is the question that I have been trying to figure out for the past week or so. Let's get into it. Ever since Renee Good was murdered brutally, I've been going down this deep dive of why the Democrats have not been doing anything and why they cannot agree on their messaging about ICE. I had a little viral moment this past week. Hey ICE, stop. Stop. Get the out. Yeah, I said the F word.
True.
It's kind of crazy, y'all. Ms. Rachel followed me from this video. In my mind, Ms. Rachel, she's A-list. She's top tier. And it is just a reminder that the internet is a crazy place and you really could just reach anyone via it. So back to the question, should we actually abolish ICE? Or can we actually abolish ICE? The short answer is yes. And I'm not gonna lie, I was skeptical. And I think there's very good reason to be skeptical. I mean, you think about moderate Democrats who, constantly say that the left has gone too far, because it is a little confusing to know as just a common constituent and common citizen of the United States, what can be done. It's very clear. Polls are showing people are really turning on ICE, and rightfully so. We see the videos. 46% of people support abolishing ICE versus 43% of people who do not. So it's literally okay, come on, Dems, you actually have this specific issue in your corner. You have the bag here. Don't fumble the bag. And what are we seeing? In my view, Democrats are fumbling the bag.
The Trump administration has cut the training down from 5 months to about a month and a half, continuing to lead new legislation that will bring further high professional standards and accountability to ICE officials.
I can count on my fingers the number of representatives who's actually called for abolishing ICE, including AOC, including Congressman Shri Thanedar, who also represents Detroit. Hey, shout out to Michigan, who's putting forth a bill to actually abolish ICE, to use that word. But everyone else is flopping so hard of we cannot abolish ICE. We have to make ICE even better. We have to give them even more money, and we can train them. We need to make sure that they wear body cams. We need to make sure that they have excellent training. We need to make sure that they take their masks off. And one dude proposed putting a QR code on every single officer so that if you got really close enough such that your phone would be able to scan the QR code, you could figure out what their name was and what their information was. Which is also how close you'd have to be to get shot at. I was listening to this really good podcast about it. It's called Head in the Office. And basically their whole point is that Democrats are just too scared. But the issue that's arising from not using the words abolish or literally getting rid of ICE is that this just makes the Democrats look even more weak. When they have some kind of mid position, even though the opportunity presents itself to have such a strong position on ICE specifically, when they have a mid position that is kind of junior Republicans, then it doesn't make the base excited about them. I'm very not excited by a Democratic Party. If we're going into the primary, if we're going into the election of people who are kind of we should really, really work hard to reform ICE. My belief is that so long as ICE exists, this version of ICE, which is Trump's ICE and Trump administration's ICE, then we need to get rid of that ICE. You can use different words, you can use reform, whatever, but I do not think that it should be ICE anymore. I think they should completely rebrand, completely rename it, obviously defund it, and obviously only include what is absolutely necessary to contain a certain amount of quote unquote illegal immigration in this country. One thing that changed my skepticism about the likelihood and feasibility of abolishing ICE is that ICE is not the same as Border Patrol. Obviously, there are people who are liberal or Democrats who are we still need to have, strong borders, whatever. ICE and CPB are not the same thing. To me, that made me a lot more comfortable to say, yeah, we should just be getting rid of ICE. That just purely operates within the United States and is there to be the Gestapo. So that understanding really just shifted my knowledge, because what ICE is doing is exactly what we are seeing online, which is taking often innocent people, often random citizens who are literally just being profiled because they have brown skin, and then they're ending up in these detention centers where people are dying. And it's very alarming how little we actually know what happens in these detention centers. Shout out to Barry Wise for, shutting that shit down. You suck for that. And there's this memo going around to Democrats basically urging them to not use the words abolish ICE. Why? Because it has the same kind of resonance as defund the police. And, you know, we all know what happened post defund the police, although like we can get into the weeds of why that ultimately happened. It being a lot of police were funded even more due to a backlash. But the podcast that I was talking about earlier said something really interesting, which is that like the police have hundreds of years of propaganda and support across the country, whereas ICE is something that's in its early 20s. Like it is not the same thing as the police. It's not the same as law enforcement. In fact, they're literally not law enforcement. And I can understand why there would be this concern of like, okay, even if we use the word abolish, you know, that feels very lefty, that feels very communism, whatever. I still do not think that that means that we should therefore not use the word abolish. I think what it all goes down to is that there is no alternative that is being proposed. And my hunch is that the strategy or the lack thereof of the Democratic Party is that they're just going to postpone what they think should happen to ICE until the midterms. And in my view, this is a very, very bad strategy and a very bad idea, because this is their opportunity to propose an alternative that completely rids itself of the baggage that is ICE. But in this memo, basically the argument was that, drumroll please, these anxious Democrats believe that such a maximalist demand plays directly into Republicans' hands by making the party seem unserious about immigration. Unless you truly believe the United States should not have an agency that enforces immigration and customs laws, reads a memo, you should not say you want to abolish ICE. And here is where I disagree, because having an agency that enforces immigration and customs laws, that doesn't have to be ICE. To me, like a lot more people can at least understand why that has to exist, but do not want that version of it to be the version that we're seeing online right now. Now getting into why I genuinely think the Democrats should be taking advantage of the idea of abolishing ICE. One, this is a winning platform. Aside from the fact that maybe they should be good people and not just cater to only corporations and billionaires, or perhaps even the companies that are housing these private jails and private prisons, essentially. Aside from doing the right thing, the polling is already showing that they will win if they have more of an opposition towards ICE. In my mind, it's the affordability crisis / economy, and it's this. Those two things do a really good job of separating the Dems from the Republicans. Going back to my theory, I think they're probably just waiting and they're just trying to have a very lukewarm version and not a singular vision on this ICE issue, because they think that they're going to have the win. They're going to wait till the midterms. I think the worst version of this is that the Democrats, actually the worst version is that the Democrats do not win. But a bad version of this is that the Dems take the win, they sweep the midterms, and then don't change ICE at all, or basically just make it what it was before the Trump administration. And I don't think that that's the progress, or I don't think that that's the vision that's going to get people excited to vote for them. There are plenty of calls to unseat and to primary people who are not taking more of a strong stance on ICE. So I don't think it's going to cut it to be like, we really need to work together and do something and write cute letters, especially for young people. Like, this is not what young voters want right now, or Gen Z voters. They do not want a weak ass position on this issue. So in my view, it really seems like they're just afraid that if they say abolish ICE, that the margin is going to become even thinner and that they might take the L and they might not win the midterms. Whereas I really think that that could be just a further way to secure that win. Like, the concern being how Republicans are painting Democrats as far too left, they're gonna do that anyways. Essentially, the Republican agenda right now is that ICE is good. And so my thinking as a voter is that if you want to truly be the opposition party, you should probably say something along the lines of ICE is bad. And not only is it bad, but we're going to do something about it because we know that you know that it's bad and we're going to get rid of it. So Democrats, let me do your job for you. Say you want to abolish ICE. Even if you know that it is too hard, even if you know that your colleagues and you don't have the numbers for it, you should still come out with your messaging and say that you want to abolish ICE, because that is what the electorate and the majority want right now. And the second reason why I really think that Democrats need to be in the position of abolishing or defunding or getting rid of it or dismantling whatever is because everyone knows that ICE is not going to be held accountable and is not held accountable. And that's not going to change if they have better training or get quote unquote better people. Like, it's still the Trump administration's ICE. These people who are of the like of someone who shot Renee Good in the face 3 times, they're not going to have a change of consciousness by having better training. They're going to have more skills. And also, the training thing was a negligible argument with this guy because he was a trained officer. According to testimony he gave in December, he was a firearms trainer, team leader, and elite member of its special response unit, a SWAT team. So he definitely knew how to operate a gun. The issue was not that he didn't know how to operate the gun, which is why he shot her 3 times. The issue is that he shot her 3 times because he's a fucking piece of shit. So now we arrive at the solutions. Now we arrive at possible things that can actually be done and how we move forward. I should have made a disclaimer in the beginning that I am not a politician. I don't know the answers. But I took it upon myself to do a little bit of research, just a little bit of research. Oh my God, someone just texted me. He said, Kareem Rama from Subway Takes reposted my reel. It really is a small world out there, guys. Like, we're moving on up here at Wait Say More / Eric Say More. Hey, Kareem, shout out. First, shout out to Sri Tanadar for actually drafting up this legislation to abolish ICE. We basically know that it's not going to pass. Unfortunately, but I do think there's something to be said about our representatives at least voting for it. It'll be a big disappointment if it doesn't even go to a vote. Wait, is that how it works? Don't quote me on that. Not me being a former government teacher, not actually knowing the answer to that. Moving on. One other potential solution that I found interesting while I was doing my research is that it is a debate whether or not they can actually rescind funds given to ICE and DHS from the big beautiful bill back when they gave $1 billion to them over the summer because Republicans love to kill people, literally, and want people to die. My best guess is that this is definitely not going to happen, that they're not going to rescind funds that they've already given. But I do think that it is interesting that is a possibility that some people can at least advocate for. 3 real quick, impeach no, impeach her. Yes, obviously it's not going to happen. We don't have the numbers, but I think there should at least be an effort to impeach her. Terrible, terrible person going to hell. I have nothing else to add. The last window of hope in this issue, at least right now, is this January 30th deadline that could call for Democrats shutting down the government again. And, we've seen this before. We see very recently. But I do think there's reason to believe that this should happen. A good version of this is that Democrats choose not to vote for this legislation, which will give even more money to DHS and ICE, and instead choose to shut down the government again. And the outcomes are either the Democrats are going to cave, which could happen, or the Republicans choose to cave and they have to change the amount of funding that they're proposing to give to DHS. I would be very curious to see Congress shut down the government because of this. Because in my mind, that would be a move that they're not going to cave and that they are standing their ground. Again, do I have much hope that that's going to happen? No, but it is a possibility. So altogether, can we abolish ICE? Yeah, kind of. Should we abolish ICE? Probably. Will they abolish ICE? Most likely not. Yeah. I, as a young progressive voter, think that they really need to move in the direction of, you can use the word dismantle, you can use the word dwindle, you can use get rid of, abolish, whatever you want to say. There has to be tangible steps to, I'll use a strong word, destroy Trump's version of ICE. The status quo is so hopeless and so sad. And I really hope that we, in this year, in 2026, start electing people who are actual advocates, who are not going to be on the sidelines, who are not weak. Because my last prediction is that people who are fed up with Trump are willing to take a risk and vote for someone in a primary or in a general, whatever, who has less experience but has a stronger position on something like this about abolishing ICE. I'm willing to take that risk, and I think a lot of people feel similarly. Ad time. Yeah, that's right, y'all. We have moved on to our first ad. We're moving on up in the world. I keep saying it, okay? Y'all know for me, I have a complicated relationship with caffeine. I usually do me a nice decaf coffee. That makes caffeine hit even harder when I really, really, really need it. Especially when I'm in my marathon training, because clearly I just love to conform and don't have a personality of my own. Whip is basically these little pouches that go into your mouth and they have caffeine in them. It's almost like a gum, but basically you just like suck on it. They have different flavors. There's like strawberry, mint, all that shit. So if you're curious about this, please check them out at WIP. That's WIP.com. And lastly, if you're in LA, let's come with me and let's do some stuff on the ground. Okay, we're not moving mountains here, but I like to go to Home Depot, my local Home Depot, and just do a really quick shift, like an hour of ice patrol. It's not hard. It's incredibly easy. It's kind of fun because you get to meet some people and you got to like have your little walkie-talkie, you have your like alarm, like you feel kind of like you're an undercover not cop, but an undercover spy. Basically, it's for people who are on the lookout for ICE if they come into the Home Depot parking lot, because there are a lot of immigrant workers who are there. DM me, reach out to me if you want more information, or we can go do this together. Okay. And that's a wrap for this one. We're making some connections with some of my, favorite political creators. I think it's cool to just be getting more immersed in this kind of like politics creator comedy world. Hopefully we'll be able to get a message across to actual elected officials, which is a little hint to what's about to come. I'm very excited for episodes that are arising. And on Wait, Say More, we're making the public get personal and the personal get public. Period.